So, today we are going to be doing a review of a little film that I personally call Lee. This is the new Kate Winslet movie, so it's obviously starring Kate Winslet as the main character, Lee Miller. We've got Alexander Skarsgård, Andy Samberg, Andrea Riseborough, Marion Cotillard, Josh O'Connor. Damn, just like a great, great cast. And it is directed by somebody called Ellen Kuras, who I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else Ellen Kuras has done. I'm just going to check. I'm using my phone. Oh, okay. So she's done a lot of. She did some work on Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, which is obviously one of my absolute favorite films of all time. Anyway, Lee. We're talking about Lee, right? What is this film about? Okay, so this film is it's a true story, chronicling the sort of second part of the life of Lee Miller, the photographer. So she was initially a model, I think, for Vogue, and then she became a photographer for Vogue. And then this is during World War II, and she decides to take photos of women in war, and then eventually she decides to go to the front lines of the war over in Europe, and take all these really influential photos. There's a really famous photo of her in Hitler's bath, like having a bath in Hitler's house with a photo of Hitler and the muddy shoes with the mud from the death camps like on the floor, and she's having a bath in Hitler's house, and this is on the day that Hitler died. So she was a bit of a wild character, a bit of a crazy woman, and I can see why someone would make a movie about her, really, because it's quite extraordinary. She's got a lot of gumph, this lady, which is what that old man in that film The Holiday says to Kate Winslet when she's in America. She's got a lot of gumph, a lot of oomph about her. So this film is, I don't want to say Oscar bait, but I feel like every war film is like, come on, let's push for that Oscar, because it's trying to be super serious. It's got a very heavy topic that you've got to handle delicately, but you don't want to shy away. You don't want to throw any punches. It's one of those types of films, you know. And I think the film is really good. Actually, I think it's wonderfully acted. I've got some notes here that I'm just looking at on my phone. Beautifully shot, wonderfully acted. I will say it's a little bit strange to see Andy Samberg in the film, because he's the jizz in my pants guy, right? He's the I'm on a boat. He's that guy, and it's like he's the Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy, and he just pops up in this film, and you're like, that's the jizz in my pants guy in the middle of this like very serious World War II Holocaust type of film. You're like, there's the jizz in my pants guy halfway through. So that's a bit strange, but he actually gives a really great performance. It's very subtle. You I don't think I ever properly forget that it's jizz in my pants guy, but you know, he plays the role really well. And when you see a photo of the actual guy at the end, you're like, okay, looks pretty much like him. And yeah, he performs it really well. Obviously, what's his name? Stellan Skarsgård, and what's his name? I always get the Skarsgårds mixed up. Let me just check. Alexander Skarsgård. I'm so sorry. The most handsome Skarsgård, in my opinion. So yeah, he's in it. He's very good as well. Very handsome. Kate Winslet's very beautiful. Lots of beautiful people, of course. And then, yeah, I do have some thoughts about this film, honestly. So the good part, the the lead up, the build up to Lee Miller, the Kate Winslet character, discovering that there's hundreds of thousands of missing people when the war's sort of coming towards an end. And she's calling back home, and she's like calling to Vogue, and she's like, have you guys heard over there about the hundreds of thousands of missing people? And they're like, what? What are you talking about? Just come home, the war's over. And then she's like, this is strange, there's all these missing people reported. And then she goes on this journey and finds the death camps full of dead Jewish people. And the build up to that is really intense. It's insane. And when she finally gets there, like the smell, the acting of the smell, the trains full of just piles of dead bodies, these camps full of piles of dead bodies, and she has to take photos of them. And that's a really interesting job to have, right? Because I guess it is really important to have eyewitness accounts of these types of things that are happening in this world. It's really important to document it. But again, it must feel a little bit strange, like a similar thing to that Civil War film earlier on this year. It's like there must be a thin line between your own sort of morality and respect, and then you also having to do a job because it's the right thing to do. The world does need to know, and you have to get paid. It's your job, and it's like taking photos of these awful things. It's just really it really strikes me whenever I see war journalism in films. Like, it does strike me. I find it a very interesting topic. But I have one other thought about this film, and I guess it's a tiny bit of a spoiler. I wouldn't really call it a spoiler. I mean, it happens right at the very end of the film, but so if you don't want any spoilers, I guess just turn us off now. But I'm going to say one thing that really took me out of this film. So Josh O'Connor is kind of interviewing Lee Miller in the later part of her life. So she's an old lady. He's interviewing Kate Winslet in very good prosthetics or makeup, and he's talking to her, and she's basically talking the whole film. She's retelling the story, and she's showing him the photos and stuff. And then at the end, he's like, "I can't believe you never told me about this." And then he's like, "Lee," and he's looking for her, and she's gone. And then a caption comes up at the end of the film that says, "It was only after Lee's death that this Josh O'Connor character found all of these photos." And I guess you're led to believe that she was never there throughout the whole film, and Josh O'Connor was kind of talking to nobody, which is a really strange kind of Sixth Sense twist to have at the end of this film. And you're like, why on earth did they add that twist? Like, that's really strange. And why do they make it seem weird that he was like, oh, where does she go? Like he had been seeing her this whole time. And I think that was a really misjudged sort of flip at the end, because it's really not needed at all. Like, the film has enough drama. You don't need to add that little switch there. And so I really think that's not a great ending at all. I think it's very weird. I mean, you could possibly say that, he was never talking to her. He was just in dialogue with the idea of her whilst looking through all these photos. But no, his acting at the end is very much like, oh, where did she go? She's disappeared. Was I talking to a ghost this whole time? Am I schizophrenic? Am I talking to myself this whole time? A very strange ending. I would say turn off the film like 2 minutes before the end, because it's bizarre. I don't know why they decided to do that ending. But apart from that, the film is really good. I'd really recommend it. Go and watch this film if you want to.